some reason. Yeah.
Okay.
So what shall we do? Shall we wait? Okay.
Okay. Where are you, Sisa? Is it in your house?
Yes.
All right, great.
Still waiting for you to come and visit.
Of course, I have to. What is the situation in Brazil? Still kind of closing? You're not allowing foreign tourists, not yet?
It depends on the country. Some countries we're open to. Some countries we're still, yeah.
How about Japan?
I think Japan at the moment still closed, but not maybe unless you have family or some sort of special reason to travel. But it should be open soon. So next year.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Boa noite, obrigada, Tiago. Bom, gostaria de dar as boas-vindas a todos e todas a uma sessão do Projeto Cinema e Corpo de modo remoto. Resistimos, mas resistimos aqui também, né? Fazendo, então, a primeira sessão do Cinema e Corpo não presencial. Estamos muito contentes, eu e a professora Ana Zimmermann, junto com a Cecília, junto com o Christian Borges, junto com o Thiago André e com a diretora do filme Zero As You Are, Miyuki Tokoi. Agradecemos a presença de todos vocês aqui. Eu queria fazer uma rápida abertura sobre o projeto Cinema e Corpo, esse nosso projeto do nosso coração, do coração do EFE e do coração do Cinusp também. Então, portanto, essa parceria que já acontece desde 2011 e que aproxima as reflexões do corpo, do movimento, do esporte, da atividade física, com as outras áreas do conhecimento, tendo o cinema como um ponto de intersecção, né? Desde 2011, a gente realiza, então, exibições periódicas de filmes pré-selecionados, seguido de debates com especialistas ou diretores de várias áreas do conhecimento. E é um projeto que faz uma extensão forte com a pesquisa e também com a graduação, né? Ao aproximar a comunidade da USP, a Escola de Educação Física e Esporte, do cinema e também do público do Cinusp, aos temas caros à educação física, esporte e lazer, a gente aborda também o que o cinema tem de melhor a nos oferecer. A inquietude, a perplexidade, a surpresa diante do corpo e do movimento humano, não é? E ao longo desses anos todos foi muito comum escutarmos como foi significativo de parte dos alunos ou outros pesquisadores o acesso às obras cinematográficas que o Cinusp apresenta, sempre fugindo um pouco do circuito muito comercial e também com bastante surpresa frente à vastidão e à complexidade do nosso objeto de estudo, né, da educação física e esporte. Acho que como a gente pode mostrar aqui, essa produção é um livro que a gente também fez em conjunto como resultado do projeto Cinema e Corpo, é um livro da coleção Cinusp, por isso que ele é bonito, belíssimo, assim, né, com as imagens e com alguns palestrantes convidados aqui conversando. Bom, foram mais de 35 sessões, com o envolvimento de alguns grupos de estudos, sempre os estagiários do Cinusp. Um agradecimento especial, acho que a gente deve fazer ao Thiago André, que nos acompanha há muitos anos, também ao diretor Christian Borges e à vice-diretora Cecília Mello, que vai estar debatendo aqui, porque ela e a Miyuki se conhecem aí de outros carnavais, e ela vai falar um pouco disso. Agradeço também vocês, Tela Bolina, bem-vinda à equipe aqui de trabalho, e todos vocês que estão aqui nos ouvindo. Miyuki, thank you very much. We loved your movie. We are looking forward to hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Eu vou passar, então, Cecília, a palavra para você estar conduzindo o debate, e eu vou estar aqui no chat com as pessoas, aqui no YouTube, junto com a Ana. É isso. Muito obrigada, pessoal. Uma alegria estar aqui, mesmo no modo remoto. E aguardem que 2022 temos muitas surpresas no projeto.
Boa noite, Soraya. Muito obrigada pelas suas palavras e por essa introdução. É um prazer estar aqui hoje nessa sessão especial do Cinusp. Eu vou começar falando em português e depois eu vou passar para o inglês. E ao longo desta sessão eu vou um pouco passar de uma língua para outra. Eu vou tentar fazer o debate, sim, em inglês com a diretora Miyuki, mas fazendo uma tradução não tão completa, um pouco mais resumida do nosso debate. Então, eu vou começar em português e depois eu passo para o inglês. Eu gostaria de agradecer a oportunidade de estar aqui hoje, dar a boa noite à Soraya e também à Ana Cristina Zimmermann, que coordenam esse projeto maravilhoso, Cinema e Corpo, e que vem com uma série de iniciativas há muitos anos com o Cinusp, sempre iniciativas e eventos de grande relevância. Então, é um grande prazer este ano fazer parte desse projeto, a partir desse visionamento do debate do filme Zero as You Are. Muito obrigada. Eu também gostaria de agradecer ao Thiago André pela toda a logística e organização deste evento, a Estela Bolina, que é estagiária do Cinusp, que também está dando um suporte técnico a este evento, e também ao diretor do Cinusp, o professor Christian Borges, que está nos assistindo e que vocês podem perceber, a Miyuki já fala até português, né, Miyuki? Ela já aprendeu um pouco de português, porque nós nos conhecemos há muito tempo. Então, eu vou fazer daqui a pouco a apresentação da Miyuki em inglês e me refiro a essa nossa amizade, mas o Christian Borges está assistindo. Muito obrigada. Eu sou a Cecília Mello, eu sou professora do Departamento de Cinema, Rádio e Televisão da ECA e sou também vice-diretora do Cinusp. Então, é um prazer. Boa noite a quem nos escuta e quem nos assiste hoje nesse debate com Miyuki Tokoi. Now I'm going to switch to English. So Miyuki, I was basically just saying good evening to everybody and welcoming everybody to our debate today. It is a great pleasure to have you here. I have prepared an introduction that I will soon read, a more formal introduction to Miyuki. Miyuki is the director of this amazing film Zero as You Are, but she's also a very good friend of mine, a very dear friend for many, many years. So we met in 1997 in Bristol in the United Kingdom. And I had enrolled in an MA in film and television production and moved to the UK without knowing anybody. And as soon as I arrived, I moved into this halls of residence, and my next door neighbor in this halls of residence was Miyuki Tokoi. And we immediately became really good friends. We had a passion for music that we shared. And Miyuki had worked with music before in Japan, so she had graduated from university, and then she had this career in music production, and so we bonded over music and cinema, and our friendship just grew from September 1997, and we're still very good friends, and we will be for life, really. So. It is an incredible honor to have Miyuki here. She's a dear friend and an incredible director. And she's also a dear friend of Christian Borges, who is our head of Cinusp, who was also in Bristol at the time, studying towards an MA. So we all met there and became friends. So it is an incredible in a way coincidence that Soraya and Anna suggested Miyuki's film to this event. So it really is one of those convergences, those moments in time when, you know, things just conspire. And it was something that I mean, I had seen the film before, and I was already a fan. And then when the proposal came through Cinema and Body Project, and it just clicked. So it was a really wonderful idea, and we're very, very happy then to welcome Miyuki Tokoi at our Cinusp and for this event. And I'm sure most of you who are watching us now have seen this film and will have lots of questions. I will now proceed to the introduction of Miyuki, a formal introduction of my dear friend Miyuki Tokoi. And then the way this evening is going to run is I'm going to ask questions after my introduction. I'm going to comment on the film very briefly, and then I'm going to ask Miyuki questions, and then she will answer the questions, and I will translate briefly, as I said, her replies. And then we will open to questions from YouTube, from the audience, and from Soraya and Anna. So Soraya and Anna will be monitoring the YouTube channel, and they will be sending me the questions, and I'll be very happy to ask Miyuki, convey your questions to Miyuki throughout the evening. So please feel free to use the YouTube comments chat box to ask your questions, and then I will pass them on to Miyuki. So Miyuki Tokoi has an MA in film and television production from the University of Bristol.
As you did.
as I do. And her first feature documentary, which was co-directed with Tomomi Kitamura, is called The Empress Tram Girls, a film, an extraordinary film. I really recommend that you see it. It's actually available online. So it's an extraordinary film about the tram girls in Hiroshima in the aftermath of the atomic bomb. So it's a story of these women who used to run the trams in the city of Hiroshima, and then after the atomic bomb, they went to great pains to get the trams running again in very, very little time. And it's an incredible documentary about these women who were there in Hiroshima at this tragic moment. Miyuki then directed and produced many other documentary films for NHK, Japan, and for Al Jazeera from 2006 to 2008. And then from 2009 to 2018, she worked as a director for NHK World Newsline program, specializing in films about art and architecture, as well as films dealing with issues that draw on the perspectives of socially vulnerable people. Zero As You Are is her newest documentary feature. It was finished in 2019, and it was released last year in Japan and in festivals around the world. The film won the Humanity Award at the Japan Film Festival in Los Angeles and the Audience Award at the Tokyo Documentary Film Festival. So congratulations, Miyuki, on these incredible wins. This film follows for a period of 9 years the story of Tamasaka Sky Kobayashi as he transitioned from female to male and went from adolescence to adulthood. I think today Sky identifies as non-binary and changed their name to Acorn, I suppose, and we'll discuss this in a bit with Miyuki. The film brings us an extraordinary coming-of-age story, which is also a coming of gender, I would say. So it involves the discovery of one's gender. And one of the most distinguishing issues or features in this documentary, from my point of view, is the lifespan it covers. So there seems to be almost a utopian search for the coincidence between lifespan and creative time in this documentary. So it is a character-based documentary that took several years to complete. And this was really due to a commitment from the part of the director, a commitment to the passing of time, a commitment or adherence to a real lifespan as a condition to this film's existence. So this film could not exist if it wasn't for this time, this long time that passed. And to the way I see it, this is testament to this incredible commitment from the part of the director, Miyuki Tokoi, to wait for events to happen rather than to rush things or to just film very quickly and make a documentary very quickly. So shooting would continue and continued indeed for many years. And as many years as were necessary to tell the story of this person, until decisive events happen throughout this lifespan. So there are different landmarks throughout this period of 9 years that Miyuki patiently filmed and patiently built into a narrative, a compelling narrative that has climaxes, that has turning points. So the film has a coherence to it that actually derives rather paradoxically from the long wait that it took to be finished. So it is a film that has this very distinctive quality about it that I would, really like to stress to our audience. The patience that it took to be finished, the respect for life and time, and a long lifespan that the film follows and waits patiently for events to actually happen. It is a film that therefore brings us through this commitment to the truth of the events, an intimate journey of self-discovery. And I'd like to thank Miyuki for her commitment and her dedication to this documentary and to this person that is Sky, that you bring to us through, this sort of amazing documentary that waits for time and things to happen at their own time. I'm going to briefly translate what I said to Portuguese. I'm not going to take very long, and then I'm going to go on to my questions. So, muito obrigada. Eu apresentei Miyuki Tokoi. Ela tem um mestrado em cinema e televisão pela Universidade de Bristol. Seu primeiro documentário se chama As Garotas do Bonde do Imperador. É um documentário sobre as motoristas de bonde em Hiroshima, no momento posterior à bomba atômica. É um documentário muito bonito que está disponível online para quem puder ver. E, em seguida, Miyuki dirigiu e produziu uma série de documentários para televisão. Ela trabalhou por muitos anos na NHK, no Japão, em um programa de notícias e documentários. Ela trabalhou como diretora. E esse documentário, Zero As You Are, é o seu documentário mais recente, que foi lançado no ano passado, passou em diversos festivais e ganhou prêmios em Los Angeles e em Tóquio. E é um documentário que segue a história de Tamasaka Sky Kobayashi, que faz uma transição de mulher para homem e passa também, durante esse período do filme, da sua adolescência para a sua vida adulta. Né? Então, é um filme que é o produto de uma longa espera e de um compromisso da diretora com a passagem do tempo, essa passagem de 9 anos, que a Miyuki pacientemente esperou, observou e acompanhou a história de Sky, e nos traz, então, nesse documentário extraordinário, que é produto, então, dessa aderência, uma aderência mesmo, às vezes realmente máxima e sem pressa, né? Ao passagem do tempo, ao tempo real, ao tempo da vida e da existência. Então, é um documentário extraordinário que contém os principais eventos que ocorreram nesses 9 anos e que reflete, então, sobre essa passagem e essas transformações, essa viagem de autodescobrimento, de autoconhecimento de Sky, que hoje assina como Acorn. E a palavra acorn, em português, a tradução é um pouco estranha, é bolota. É uma pequena semente, uma semente que é traduzida como bolota em português, acorn em inglês. So, thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask Miyuki questions. Miyuki, thank you very much once again for being here. We're very happy. And I'd like to start by asking you about your meeting with Sky Kobayashi. How did you meet him? How did it come about? How did you get across him? And how did you, what attracted you to his story? Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to make this documentary? And are you still in touch with him? So actually 3 questions in one.
Okay. So yeah, first of all, really thank you very much for having me in this wonderful session. And then I'm so honored to show my film in Brazil, which is the first, ever. And then I'm really kind of looking forward to talking with you as well as the viewers today. So first question is about the encounter with Sky. So at the time I was a director at NHK, and then I was making a news report for the news program for the world. And then actually it was one of the maybe 100 topics that I was following. At the time, 11 years ago that I first met Sky, at the time I was shocked to learn the gender fluid kids had a lot of suffering in schools in Japan. And you may not know, but Japan is a society where everybody is expected to be the same. We call it dojo atsuroku in Japanese, or peer pressure. Do you understand peer pressure? Especially in schools in Japan, the peer pressure is so strong. We are kind of expected to do the same as all the friends, and then everybody is supposed to think the same way, act or behave in the same way. And school life quite often forces students to separate between boys and girls, such as uniforms, gym classes, or even seating order. I don't know the situation in Brazil, maybe you can tell me later. But I felt a strong urge to report about it because that was a new issue to be tackled immediately. And through the coverage, I got to know one girl who had just been accepted to be treated as a boy at his junior high school. I think he was one of the very first of several who were accepted by schools to attend as their desired gender. Do you want to translate for that bit?
Sim, então a Miyuki diz que primeiro ela está muito honrada de estar aqui, feliz em discutir o filme. Ela trabalhava para a NHK há 11 anos e ela seguia uma série de tópicos para documentários para a televisão, a NHK, e ela então encontrou Sky numa dessas pesquisas e ela se chocou muito, ficou muito realmente assustada quando ela se deu conta do tamanho do sofrimento que os estudantes de gênero fluido passavam, esse sofrimento que eles sofriam nas escolas. E Miyuki explica que no Japão há um traço da sociedade japonesa que é uma uniformidade, todos serem iguais, terem que se comportar da mesma maneira, e há muita pressão dentro das escolas para as meninas, os meninos serem muito iguais, né? Exatamente, as meninas, um grupo, os meninos, outros, bem separados, e todos se comportando da mesma maneira, se vestindo da mesma maneira, e usando uniforme. Então tem uma normatização muito forte, que é uma pressão muito forte, é um traço da sociedade. Então, quando ela conheceu Sky, ela sentiu uma urgência em tratar desse assunto, e ele havia sido, naquele momento, a primeira moça, menina, a ser aceita como um homem trans, que iria iniciar um tratamento, então, um rapaz trans dentro da escola.
So at the age of 15, Sky spoke out about what he was and how he wanted people around him to treat him. Also, Sky says there's no taboo, no problem to show his face and real name. I thought he was such a brave and honest kid. Then I thought, if I follow him to see how he is growing, how he is forming his identity, it would make an important story for all of us. So maybe I would say what I was interested was not a sexuality, but the identity.
Então, Miyuki diz que quando encontrou Sky, ele não tinha nenhum problema, nenhuma questão em ser filmado, ele mostrava o seu rosto, não tinha, quer dizer, abriu esse espaço para Miyuki, para que ela pudesse filmar a sua vida. E isso demonstrou a sua coragem, realmente a sua honestidade, e a Miyuki diz que interessava a ela discutir a questão da identidade, mais ainda do que a sexualidade. Thank you so much, Miyuki. And are you still in touch with Sky?
Yeah.
How did he react to the film? Was he happy with the results?
Well, yeah. Yeah, we are really still in touch because we are quite often when I screen my film, somebody asks him to talk after the screening. So it is a really good opportunity for Sky to talk in front of the public, because Sky wants to be a kind of voice actor, or actor is the word that for male, which is also problematic in Japan, but he wants to do the performance, or he wants to talk in front of public. That's what Sky enjoys. Sorry, that still in English it's really difficult to say he or she or pronounce, and then in Japanese there's no problem because we can keep talking about the names, but just sorry, that's even if Sky is non-binary, but sometimes I say he or she. Anyway, it was an interesting story because after the completion of the film, because it was the documentary that I made only on my own, so I was not so confident about the outcome, and I always said, no, I don't know how many people would watch my film, and I don't know if I did the right thing. And then Sky said, why you worry? Because it is a really wonderful documentary. That's what Sky said. And then I asked Sky, why? And Sky answers, because I am in it. Why can't, this should be a really good story because I am in it. Really, Sky is really confident and then really happy.
Thank you, Miyuki. Então, eu perguntei para a Miyuki se ela ainda tinha contato com o Sky. Ela me disse que, com frequência, ele é convidado as sessões do filme para falar, é um momento também no qual ele pode se expressar, falar da sua experiência, e também ele tem esse desejo de falar em público, ele tem um desejo, como vocês puderam ver no filme, né, de ser ator, de ser dublador. Então tudo isso para ele é prazeroso, E eu já vou voltar na questão que ela falou sobre o uso da língua japonesa, do artigo masculino e feminino. Eu vou voltar nessa questão e aí eu falo mais, mas Miyuki tratou um pouco dessa questão linguística, que é importante. E, por fim, ela contou que, quando ela terminou o filme, ela fez o filme muito sozinha e estava insegura, será que o filme é legal, não é legal? E que Sky deu muita confiança para ela e falou que o documentário é maravilhoso porque ele está no documentário, então ele tem uma felicidade, uma força, uma honestidade e algo que é muito forte, que dá confiança, dá força para ela também. So Miyuki, you mentioned something about language, and this is a question that actually came up today on Twitter, because we had a Japanese language teacher here in Brazil. His name is Rodrigo Tanaka, and Rodrigo Tanaka, he watched the film and he really enjoyed it very much, and he actually made some comments on Twitter about language specificity and how the Japanese language, and I have to apologize because I don't speak at all Japanese, as you know, but he says something that you just mentioned, so that's why I sort of will ask you this question now about gender in Japanese language. He says that maybe it's not so common in Japanese to address or to refer to people as he or she, and also there is no grammatical gender in the language, and I mean, all these, he made some comments in relation to language, and I was going to ask you about translation and the subtitles, because the subtitles in English, obviously you had to make some options or make some choices as to, you know, whether to use she or he, or so how did it, I mean, could you, of course it's a huge question, but could you just maybe sum up to us this difference between the Japanese language and gender markers and the English language? And because we translated the subtitles to Portuguese from the English subtitles, then of course we also, in Portuguese, we use he and she, and you know, so we you know, there are choices in subtitles that if you understand Japanese,
yeah, there's a different kind of problems, because in Japanese language, for example, if I mention about I, there's a two ways of saying that's an I as a female or I as a male. So there's another problem, and then that gender fluid people always have to choose what kind of I subject, and then also the female form of the sentences and male form of sentences, and then it's really another matter. But we don't have really kind of pronounce he or she. Well, we do, but not much as English or maybe in Portuguese. So when I made subtitles, I really have to think the way to avoid he or she. I don't think I never use, because originally Sky wants to live as a man. So at that time, the first half of the documentary, I decided to use he form. But later on, he become a non-binary. So I try to avoid using he. So just competitively, I use Sky as a name. Or sometimes I think I sometimes use they, which seems to be the form for non-binary people. I don't know, but it's really well known. And then, so that was another challenge. And so at the time I realized this world, the basic assumption is that there are only male and female in this world. So all the language, all the systems are based on that. So I really want to gradually change that base concept as well.
Então, a Miyuki diz que na língua japonesa há uma questão que para nós, lá no português e no inglês não existe, que é um uso da língua de acordo com o gênero. E isso é um problema sério para as pessoas que têm o gênero fluido. Então, falar como mulher ou como homem é diferente no Japão. Você tem frases e mesmo pronomes que são diferentes para homem e para mulher. Então, esse é um tipo de marcação de gênero da língua que nós não temos e que é bastante radical. Ao mesmo tempo, há essa atenuação, entre aspas, de não se utilizar tanto os pronomes feminino e masculino para se referir às pessoas no japonês. E que ela, na tradução para o inglês, que é algo que pode ter se perdido um pouco no português, ela tentou evitar ao máximo utilizar ele ou ela e se referia em geral a Sky, né, pelo nome, que é um nome que é neutro. Né? Mas que durante esse processo ela percebeu que a língua, qualquer língua, né, ela existe muito no mundo binário entre homem e mulher, ou masculino e feminino, perdão. Né? E que isso é uma questão que, quer dizer, esta luta pela visibilidade, pela aceitação, também passa por uma questão linguística. Thank you, Miyuki. I think I'll ask one more question before we open to the YouTube questions.
Okay, okay.
I was very interested, as I said in the beginning, but and now I'd like to ask you a bit more in detail about your directing decisions. So, as I said in the beginning, the film is a film that, waits for time to pass and for events to happen. But at the same time, it is a very edited. Of course, it is an edited film. You have to edit all this material that you had. So, you have this challenge of condensing 9 years into an 80-minute film. So I was curious to hear you tell us a little bit about the edit process. How long did it take? And you opted as well for something that I think is quite incredible, is the use of poems in the film. So as well as sort of condensing this 9 years, then you also introduce a layer of, I would say, intermediality in the film through poems, through music, and through graphs as well. So you use some graphs at some point. So it is quite obviously, a directing decision to kind of introduce these layers that are not from reality, but that sort of complement this incredible story. So if you could just let us know a little bit about the edit. How long did it take? How difficult was it? And your decision to include these other layers of information through poems and graphs.
Yeah. Thank you very much for asking it, because Cisa is a specialist, expert in films and film production, and I've never been asked something like that. So I really appreciate your, deep. Trying to understand my film in a really deep layer. Yeah, editing itself, because I had more than 100 roles, so it was, I don't know, really long. But editing was not so difficult, because after 9 years of filming, I always have a good memory or something really unforgettable moment. So I just kind of forget about something that it didn't really stick to my mind. So I just picked up some moments that I was moved, or I was impressed, or I was shocked, whatever. And when I kind of picked up all the elements into it, it automatically made a story, which is quite interesting. So I didn't really kind of do this and do that and exchange it, or it really simply made the story by itself, I would say. And then when I kind of picked up all the elements into one story, it was already kind of 100 minutes or something. So after that, I of course trimmed a bit or changed a bit, and then that. So yeah, film. Once again, film make their own story by itself. So another good question is about music and poems. When I talk about music, because Cisa introduced me, I started my career in a music business. So I think that many documentaries don't have music as mine. Maybe my film uses music a lot, even if it's a documentary. That's because I'm a music lover, and I believe in the power of if music and moving image combined in a best way, it even made a kind of stronger emotional moment. That's what I believe. So I've got a really good friend of mine who's a composer of the music. So I asked him to make the original music, and it's like a improvising music. So when I was playing the film, he was just at the same time he was composing the music just to fit to each scene, which turned out to be really good. I really love music of my film, especially that's an ending theme is from the Mother Goose rhyme, which is what are girls made of, what are boys made of, which is kind of very stereotypy lyrics. So I thought that really good. It's gonna be an antithese. Do you know antithese? To you. And then my friend composed the music to it, which worked really well. It was a hard process, but I found British boys and girls who live in Japan to sing that song, and we recorded it, and then really it was a really enjoyable moment. Poems, just because I don't know if it's a good idea.
Can I just translate this?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So, então, ela diz algo sobre a montagem que é muito bonito. Aqui já estou fazendo um comentário junto com a tradução, mas que a montagem para ela, como foram 9 anos, quando ela foi montar, ela tinha na memória os momentos fortes, os eventos, né, que ela realmente queria trazer para o filme, que então o filme se fez, foi algo que ela foi quase orgânico, quando ela foi colocando, de repente o filme estava lá, e foi muito a partir da memória, não foi algo que não teve nenhum grande esforço, né? Então, eu achei muito interessante essa ideia da memória e da montagem que ela traz. O filme, a primeira versão tinha uns 100 minutos, depois ela foi cortando um pouquinho aqui e ali. E o filme utiliza músicas, e a música foi composta junto com a montagem por um amigo dela, que é compositor, e especialmente ela chamou atenção para a música dos créditos finais, que é uma nursery rhyme, né, uma do Mother Goose, é uma rima de criança, né, no Reino Unido, que fala do que são feitas as meninas, do que são feitos os meninos, e que tem essa separação entre as meninas e os meninos, e então ela achava que aquilo seria uma espécie de antítese ao que ela havia proposto, e também um comentário sobre essa separação, esse binarismo, né, que ainda que é bastante, digamos, redutor, não é? Então, essa rima, essas rimas de criança, ela conseguiu crianças inglesas no Japão para cantarem para o filme, para essa música dos créditos finais, que o amigo dela compôs também, e que então foi uma gravação especial para o filme, que eu acho que ficou assim realmente muito especial. I was just saying that I love that final music for the final credits. I think it is really special with the nursery rhymes, and is really lovely. It's a fantastic touch. And about the poems now.
Poems.
Yeah.
I don't know, some documentary critics, maybe you will say something, but it may not be a good idea to get too intimate with my subject. I don't know, sometimes some critics say that some documentary director should have a kind of objective view towards the subject, not to, get too close to each other. But in my case, I couldn't do that. Because Sky was like my child age, so I sometimes felt like Sky's mother, kind of. So I just loved Sky, and I really wanted to be the best supporter of Sky. So learning that Sky wants to be a poet, and then I thought that Sky's poems so moving and then really good. So that's why I wanted to use Sky's poem in it. Also, I know Sky's wanted to be a voice actor. I don't want to use yeah, kind of.
What is the problem with actor?
Actor is for men, isn't it?
Yes,
Actress is for female. So I don't want to use kind of such a word which differentiate actor, actress. So my actor anyway. Maybe these days we call actor for female,
for
right?
Women.
Yeah,
yes, in English we do.
Yeah. So Sky wants to be an actor, so I wanted to support that. That's why I used Sky to be the narrator of the film as well. It is actually Sky's debut as an actor. So, well, it's kind of mixed feeling. Do you understand?
I think I definitely do. Então eu perguntei para ela também sobre o uso dos poemas e ela disse que ela fala algo interessante sobre o documentário, que algumas há uma certa diretriz, digamos, no mundo do documentário, para diretores de documentário, de não se tornarem, de tentar evitar excesso de intimidade com o seu personagem, com o assunto do documentário, no caso uma pessoa, seria importante no documentário sempre manter uma certa objetividade, mas que ela não conseguiu, porque ela se sentia quase como mãe do Sky. O Sky poderia ser filho dela pela idade, então ela realmente cuidou, ela sentiu uma proximidade muito grande e ela sabe desse desejo dele de escrever, quer dizer, dessa escrita de poemas e do desejo também dele ser dublador, e que então ela incorporou esses elementos dele no filme. Ela colocou os poemas ali durante o filme, pontuando o filme, e também fez com que ele narrasse o filme. Então, tem uma relação com essa proximidade, com essa relação de muito afeto que ela criou com o Sky.
What do you think, as Cisa, as an expert?
You're the expert.
But kind of the relationship between director and subject, is there kind of ideal? Because my film, as you said, I'm kind of using my question bit, which kind of show also the relationship between us. So how did it kind of...
Yeah, I mean, you are present in the film in some ways, so we can hear you. I mean, you're not completely absent from it. We don't see you, but we hear you, and we hear your questions, and that is, it's a choice. Obviously, it's a directorial choice, and of course, there aren't any formulas. I think, obviously, if you're making a documentary, and it's more, if you want to keep objectivity, you must try to not get too intimate, because I think, especially in the edit, it can be very painful if you're too intimate with someone. I mean, you had a wonderful experience with Sky, but it could have been a lot more painful if you had a more difficult relationship with your character, and then you had to edit, and then you had to take things out, and then you would have issues with, you know, your relationship with the person if you become too intimate. So I think you were lucky, but I think it's also not a choice. As you said, it's something that you couldn't help. So you just feel very connected, you feel close to the person, and you follow this person for so many years, and it's very difficult not to care, not to feel close and intimate to the person. So I think documentaries can assume different forms. I mean, that is my and you know, there are more personal, more poetic, some are more objective. Documentary is such a broad, you know, sort of. So I don't really believe in formulas. I think reality will demand a certain type of documentary from you and your opposition from you.
Wow, yeah. Thank you. I'm really impressed by your thought.
Eu apenas estava discutindo com ela sobre documentários e sobre essa questão de estar mais próximo ou menos próximo do seu personagem. E eu dizia que não acredito que existam fórmulas. A realidade vai demandar uma certa postura, né, do diretor em relação ao seu assunto. So now I'm going to read, there are lots of questions on YouTube, Miyuki, so I'm going to go ahead and start asking you some of these questions. And first of all, there are some comments from Christian Borges and Deborah. They're saying hello to you.
Oh, okay.
And Larissa said that about self-esteem, that she feels that there's a change in self-esteem from Sky, from the beginning to the end of the film.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Lima Ferreira asks, okay, so he's asking something about the subtitles, so the translation to Sky and Acorn. So the names are not, I mean, there was an option in the subtitles to translate to Sky and Acorn. How do you pronounce these two names in Japanese? How do they sound in Japanese? And why did you choose to translate to Sky and Acorn rather than
his Japanese name?
His Japanese name, exactly. And just one more question. Does he or they refer to themselves now as Acorn or Sky?
Okay. Actually, Japanese names is Takamasa for Sky and Konomi for Acorn. But, you know, it is too difficult for the overseas audience to remember that. So it is just a simple reason that maybe Sky or Acorn is easier for them to refer to, because Takamasa even difficult for Japanese people to remember because 4 syllables. And then also anyway, I call him Sky because Takamasa's Chinese character uses Sky, so I always call Sky is Sky. And then what was the next question?
Does he call himself now, or they, I don't know, as Acorn or
Acorn?
Sky? Acorn. So we should really refer to Sky as Acorn. And I keep referring. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So don't.
But saying that, Skies not really don't care about such a thing, because names are just the nouns, right? And then even if, for example, about the gender, X-gender or non-binary, Sky doesn't really care about such names, because Sky is Sky or Acorn is Acorn inside. So we don't really have to be too sensitive about how to call with Acorn, or you can be more casual about Sky or Acorn.
Muito obrigada. Thank you, Miyuki. Então, ela explica que Sky seria Takamasa?
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sky or Acorn is easier, right?
Point proven. Point proven. Enough said. Então, o Sky seria mais difícil de lembrar e pronunciar, é Takamasa, e então por isso que ela optou pela tradução, e ela mesma chama ele de Sky. E eu perguntei se hoje em dia ele se refere a si mesmo, se prefere ser chamado de Sky ou Acorn. Ela diz que Acorn seria o nome de hoje, mas que ele não é tão preocupado com qual é o nome ou qual é o pronome. É uma coisa que realmente não é um grande problema. Você pode chamar, que eu poderia ser mais casual, chamá-lo como eu quisesse, que isso não é uma grande questão. So Miyuki, there's another question here from Larissa Lima Godencio. She asks, if you see a change in the way that Japan deals with trans people or non-binary people, is it getting better, or is it the same, or is it worse?
Okay. Well, ちょっと待ってね。
Yeah, and I think this is just to add, this is something that Rodrigo Tanaka, the Japanese language teacher, also commented on. Yeah, something to do with how in Japan there's also the way you refer to identity, so trans people. He wrote something in Japanese here. Sei do yutsu shogai. Sei do yutsu shogai. Yeah. So in terms of the way it is referred to, is it still the same? Has it changed? Yeah.
So at the time, of course, when I first started filming, we didn't have the word LGBT or LGBTQ at the time. And the recognition of the sexual minority people were so low. But maybe for the last 5 years, the recognition is slowly but steadily progressed. For example, we don't have a same-sex marriage system yet. But local government started kind of same-sex partnership certificate system, which gives same-sex couples some of the rights and insurance as conventional marriage. And some schools have started universal uniforms, which any students can decide to wear. But we don't even have an Equality Act, which can work fundamentally to express our will against discrimination. And when I talk about it socially, in Japan, the most people are not actively against them, but they are unaware of the issues surrounding transgender and sexuality. A lot of people think that there are no transgender or LGBTQ people around them, which is not actually true. The recent statistics reveal that there is one sexual minority person among every 11 to 20 people in Japan. So we are living together with them. And so I think that's because there are a lot of taboos in Japan, we tend not to talk about this kind of tabooed issue, which includes LGBTQ or sexual minority. So the problems is kind of kept unseen or unaware. That's why I hope my film kind of give the good opportunity for the audience to be kind of aware of the issues, because documentaries sometimes can focus on something which some kind of controversial issues which cannot be spoken verbally. And so I hope, especially maybe you may agree, moving pictures or films have a power to change the audience's lack of awareness to knowledge, and knowledge to lived experiences, because we see, them, and we can feel their emotions, or we can see how they live visually. So that's what I believe, and that's my challenge to change each one's recognition, or kind of have an opportunity, give an opportunity to think about it, which they might have not thought about it before.
Excellent, thank you so much. And there's two other comments that I'll just ask you in English, and then I'll just translate everything. In terms of the operation, the sort of gender reassignments, that is not, I mean, do you have a public health system in Japan?
Yeah.
You do.
But it that that surgeon
surgery,
it's not included in the
included.
Insurance, and they have to pay on the.
Do you see this changing anytime soon?
It's really difficult, because one is kind of the bureaucratic tendency of the Japanese society, and then of course there are a lot of controversial opinions about it, but still Japanese mastectomy, or the operation, operations, how can I say, ちょっと待ってねhang on a minute. Yeah, there's a なんていうのかな、rules called GID, Gender Identity Disorder Special Cases Act, which includes 5 conditions to take an operation. One of them is that in order to change their passport sex, they have to do the operation, especially to get rid of their reproductive organs out, which is quite really hard rules, because it's really harmful for their physical body. And I think that most developed countries have already abandoned the requirements by the authority telling their people to have their reproductive organs removed in order to change their passport sex. But in Japan, so this issue is not only the physical issues, but very political issue as well.
Okay. So I'm going to briefly translate, and eu vou traduzir, inclusive, algumas perguntas que eu não fiz aqui. A pergunta do Matheus José Arruda, que perguntou se o Japão está perto de garantir os procedimentos de transição de gênero gratuitamente pelo sistema de saúde público, e também uma pergunta da Larissa sobre o que a Miyuki achava da lei japonesa que obriga a pessoa a fazer a cirurgia de redesignação de gênero para poder depois mudar os nomes nos documentos. Então, a Miyuki comentou isso também, além da pergunta que eu tinha feito original, que era sobre a questão dos direitos mesmo, e a mudança na forma como o Japão lida com as pessoas trans. A Miyuki diz, muito brevemente, que quando ela começou a fazer o filme, não havia nem um debate em torno de questões LGBT, e, bom, QIA+, também não, né? E que isso foi mudando gradualmente, mas mais nos 5 anos, um certo reconhecimento desse debate, dessa questão, e no Japão não há casamento do mesmo sexo, apenas um certificado, que é algo mais recente também, então apenas um certificado de união estável, mas não há casamento, que aos poucos as escolas têm agora adotado algumas escolas uniforme, que seja mais neutro entre os meninos e meninas lá na escola, que eram assim, muito separados, os uniformes de menino e menina, mas que agora estão se tornando cada vez mais... Bom, algumas escolas, ela diz que tudo é muito lento, e que a maioria da população no Japão ainda não tem conhecimento dessas questões, ou acha que essas questões nem são relevantes ou não existem, e que ainda é um tabu, né, falar de sexualidade dessa maneira e de questões relativas à pauta LGBTQIA+. E ela diz que o documentário veio muito no sentido de provocar discussão e tirar um pouco, quer dizer, levantar uma questão, e a partir dessa abordagem da questão, criar um conhecimento, e a partir desse conhecimento, isso se transforma também numa experiência vivida. E em relação à operação, ela diz que no sistema de saúde público do Japão, isso não existe, quer dizer, não é considerada uma operação que é coberta por esse sistema, e que há muita burocracia, muito também, que impede que essas mudanças ocorram de maneira rápida, então ela não vê isso mudando tão rápido, e que ela criticou bastante o fato de que no Japão, para que você possa mudar o seu nome e nos seus documentos, você precisa da operação, que isso é bastante traumático, né, e que ela também não vê uma mudança rápida. Eu tenho aqui umas outras perguntas, eu vou dar só uma olhadinha, gente, porque... peraí, só um segundinho. Tem aqui mais um comentário, né, da Evelyn sobre os espaços de banheiro feminino e banheiro masculino, como que a Icon está lidando com isso, já vou perguntar. Sobre Dragon Ball, também a importância do Dragon Ball, a decisão de mostrar a paixão por anime, não, do Kevin, e dificuldades ações do dublador, foi devido a ele não se identificar mais com o gênero masculino e feminino. Só um momento, peraí.
Yeah, maybe because of this is a relationship with their body. So maybe Soraya, do you have any question?
Well, Miyuki, we have many questions here in the chat, but I think we can send them to you, maybe, because they are from our students. So maybe you can answer and writing the questions, and then we can send to them. What do you think? Because of the time.
Yeah,
but I think it's a subject that it needs more exploration, and your movie brings so much clarification on this theme because of the time. The time we have. We are honored to accompany Sky in this long period of time, and so it gives us a lot of hints. We were very surprised by the fact that these students dropped school. Physical education is one of this very hard subject for him, for her, and how many years did? It's very common that this public doesn't go to school anymore. They just don't go to school anymore. And Anime was the teacher he had for a long time, and how long? And he never went back to school. That's a question, because I think physical education and sport should look for this. Sport is looking for this subject of this non-binary situation. It's a situation that sport as a phenomenon, a global phenomenon, probably will have to solve in a few years, very quick, as we have this population growing, and physical education as well. So if you want to comment that, and then the next question, Cecília, I think we can send
Yeah. There are many questions here that we can maybe send about Dragon Ball and the importance of animation and you know how this played a part, like Soraya said, how in a way he feels protected by these animation characters, and he feels like they are part of his family, and you know, so he really relies on these characters. I think this is a wonderful question that was asked about you know, the presence and the importance of Dragon Ball. Yeah.
It is. So what is the best way? So
you can just comment now if you want some about, you know, school, the difficulty with school, and how when Sky was in school, this issue of going to the toilet as well, there's you know, sort of female toilet, and how you know, was kind of a challenge, and how animation helped.
Okay. Because I myself really had a hard time when I was junior elementary school or junior high schools, because as I said, not only gender, schools, all students really are expected to act the same and feel the same and think the same. That's what our school system is based on, so that we have an order in the schools. So our kind of, it's gradually changing, but still at the time, students have to fit their personality into the school system. So especially with somebody who's got a little bit of unique personality, or some strong motivation of do something different, they are kind of they couldn't act freely. That's also I experienced. So especially for kids with gender difficulty, it must be really hard to fit their fit to their school life. So I think it's not only by schools, but one aspect of Japanese society. And because I realize that more and more people have a stressful life here, because they're depressed and distracted in this society. So that's why I really made my film. I'm not really only want to focus on gender, but just my message is just live as your own. Just enjoy being yourself. Just enjoy expressing who you are. And then if we kind of accept our differences each other, and if we can enjoy our differences, because each one's really different and a unique character, then it might be a really kind of comfortable society for all of us. Let's stop kind of expecting everybody to behave the same way. It might be a really kind of, we may have an order, but we at the same time, we have kind of really tight and stressful society. That's what I want to say. And then about Dragon Ball, I have to ask Sky, because obviously that helped Skies to because especially there was a time that he couldn't attend the school because he really hated wearing the girls' uniform, and then he couldn't go, and then he was watching Dragon Ball all day long, and then what else should I say?
That's wonderful. I mean, that's great. I mean, I'm just going to briefly translate. Miyuki disse que grande parte da motivação para fazer o filme foi o fato dela também não se adequar, ou não se conformar tanto às regras, e ela ter uma posição muito crítica em relação a esse sistema japonês, que é extremamente organizado, tem muita ordem, disciplina, mas que ao mesmo tempo é muito uniforme. Então, é importante deixar muito claro que a grande motivação para ela era justamente criar uma espécie de reflexão e mesmo um libelo pela diversidade, né? E que para Sky, no período, como a Soraya mesmo comentou, foi muito difícil frequentar a escola por questão do uniforme e mesmo se adequar aos espaços que são, né, como os banheiros e os espaços da escola que são, né, espaços marcados pelo gênero, que para ele era muito difícil, e que então, durante um período, que é o anime em japonês, a animação, teve um papel fundamental para sua saúde mental. Então, o Dragon Ball teve uma importância muito grande para a vida dele, para a vida do Sky, naquele momento difícil mesmo na escola, antes de que ele soubesse que poderia seguir com a operação. There's so much else that we could talk about, because we haven't even we haven't even covered something very crucial about the film, which is after he has the operation, then after a while there are some changes in the way that he perceives himself. I mean, he encounters this idea of being non-binary, and maybe not identifying with a male gender anymore. So this is very, very interesting development to the character. So that the documentary maybe could have finished with the operation, but you don't finish that, which is incredible. I think is a fantastic thing about this documentary. I mean, you carry on a few years. And Luisa Freire was just saying that this in the comments about how amazing that you have this interval between the operation and then what happened afterwards. And another thing that I was going to say, which I think is quite amazing in the documentary, is that you, Miyuki, as a director, you create encounters for this character. So you put him in touch with Yashiro, Miyuki Yashiro, and you put him in touch with June later on. So he meets a non-binary person, and I that happens through the documentary, right? The documentary creates a reality and films a reality, and then produces a change in Sky's life as well. So I think that is absolutely fantastic.
Actually, I wanted to talk about you asked about how documentary affect Sky's life, which is a really, really important topic about making a documentary, because obviously I want to be objective and I try not to interfere Sky's life, but as a documentary filmmaker, we have to be responsible. That may affect our subjects, and then sometimes filming somebody or making a documentary about something, we can be a very violent medium to interfere their life. We have to really feel the responsibility. And then at the time I didn't notice that, but in the end, of course, it is me to set up the encounter with Sky, with Jun, who's a non-binary, which may affect Skies to have a recognition. And then, well, if I ask Acorn would say no, because Acorn is the person who always Acorn doesn't make their own choice because of the exterior world. Acorn always listen to their internal voice. So Acorn would say no. Acorn would never be affected by films, but still I have to be really responsible as a filmmaker, and then that's the really violent part of the documentary making process, I think.
And just this question about the after the operation, then you carried on filming Sky, and so why, I mean, was there a temptation at some point for you to kind of say, okay, he had the operation, that's it, I'm going to end the documentary here, or not? What happened in
Of course, when I first started filming Sky, I was kind of imagining the ending of my film would be kind of Sky became to live as a man, and then he would be happy, kind of. But at the time, well, in my side, actually, if I tell about this in not too much in details, but somebody who was I've got a friend producer at the time, and then she got ill, so we couldn't carry on filming at the time. And then so we were talking that, and if you have just stop filming, but when you recovered, let's start again. And then so we had to stop filming for 1.5 years to complete the film. And during that period, Sky changed his kind of self recognition about his gender. I was so surprised, actually. But when we started filming him again, I thought I should carry on making another ending, because it conveys much deeper message. Because now I can tell that this, sexuality is not only male or female, or not only majority or minority, but each one's got your own sexuality and identity. So everybody's different. And if this recognition is known in each of us, then this issue is totally different, right? So I think that's that hard period that we had to hold the filming was actually a blessing from the heaven to make this documentary with much deeper message. So I'm really happy about the hardship during that time. So it's not my intention, just it happened, and then I'm really grateful for the happening.
Miyuki, in this subject, Professor Anna, she says that something very strong about this movie is the fact that they were very sad and they were having a very unhappy life until they noticed and they could, circle the problem, which was the problem. And when they find out, so they could start working on the subject to be happier, to be better. So I think this movie has this mission as well, because it helps other people to find this subject as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So as you said, I don't regard my film as LGBTQ film. My film is about, as Cesar said, some human, some person growth story from the 15-year-old till 24 years, and how this person growing, how to obtain the identity, which everybody is the same. The problem might be different to each of us, but I hope this this is related to everybody. And the message that I want to convey is that really universal for everybody. That's what I hope.
Miyuki diz então que ela buscou uma mensagem universal para todos, que na verdade esse processo de busca por uma identidade, de transformações, de um adolescente para até a vida adulta, é algo que pode ser diferente para cada pessoa, mas nós temos todos um percurso, e que ela espera que o filme então converse com diferentes experiências de diferentes pessoas, e não seja restrito a uma experiência que desse modo né, a trajetória de Sky possa ser inspiradora, acho, para todos. I think we've about run out of time. So it's been so we were saying an hour, but it's an hour 25 now, and actually we could carry on because I have a million other questions, and I'm sure we have many other questions from the audience as well. But as Soraya was saying, we can then maybe forward them to you and be in touch with your people who watched your film and were inspired and. But let me just end with again saying how happy we were to have Miyuki with us tonight, and thank you. So it's very early in Japan, so she had to wake up really early for us. Thank you so much, Miyuki. And there's so much more to learn about. And thank you to Sky for, sort of opening up his life to you. And for you to, for making this wonderful film that is so inspiring. And we, really a privilege to have you. Thank you, Soraya and Erna and Cinusp as well for this event.
Thank you, Cecília, as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the students.
Questions are in Portuguese, but I think in this kind of digital area, I think I can use the internet translation system into English, so I would understand. So I will try to answer, but what is the best way to give it to you or make it open?
You can mail me, Miyuki, and I can help you with the translation as well if you need. But you mail me and I show to the students in class because they are from our
that's
class.
A good idea. Thank you very much for everybody. It's a shame that I can't see your audience faces here, so I want to say hello and thank you.
And I want to say the next time it's going to be you, Miyuki, here in Brazil, so we can all meet and meet the students.
Definitely, we'll be waiting.
Time will come.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much. I enjoyed it talking. Good luck for everybody. And then university might be a bit difficult time to how to teach students, but I hope you will enjoy. And then thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. I will kind of